Assalamu alaikum. So I'm doing part four of Zaidi aqeeda, and part four is the divine threat and the divine promise. And what is that? That's basically we say that everything Allah tells us through revelation is true, and Allah stays true to that in the sense that He honors His own statements. He won't go against His own statements of revelation. Um, and this is based on some verses. For example, in Surah 4, verse 87, who is truer in speech than Allah? And Surah 4, verse 122, who is truer in statement than Allah? So both of these show that Allah is true in what He says. Now, when it comes to divine threat and divine promise, Zaydis have emphasized this in their Aqidah because of a doctrine that is in the Islamic Ummah, which is that we will be in hell for a small amount of time and then we'll be taken out of it. And the reason Zaydis include this in this Aqidah is because they believe, or we believe, that this statement goes, this view that we'll be in and out of hell goes against the Quran. And what do we mean with that? So when we look at divine threat and divine promise, so the divine promise, for example, is that if you follow Allah's laws and you are a believer, then you will be in heaven eternally. And no one says, "Oh, you're only going to be in heaven for a little bit, and then Allah's going to take you out." But this view of being in hell for a short amount of time and then being taken out is a view that originally came from the Jews. And this is addressed in the Quran, where Allah addresses the Israelites and says to them that, that they believe that they will be in hell temporarily. And then Allah rebukes them and says, where have you got this evidence? So, in the same sense that Allah says that we're going to be in paradise, rewarded in paradise eternally, that eternal terminology is also used for hell. Many verses it says, "And you will be in hell eternally." And when Allah uses that terminology, it's forever. So then the question comes: if that's clear in the Quran, why are we going to be in hell for a short amount of time? It comes down to hadith. So there are hadith that says Muslim, the mu'min, the believer will be in hell temporarily and then be removed. Zaydis reject this hadith, and they say, okay, regardless of whether you believe this hadith or not, let's go back to the Quran on which we agree upon. And if you look in the Quran, the first point is Allah is true in statement. The second point is that Allah promises eternal heaven, which no one disputes. And the third point is, in the same way, Allah promises that you will be in eternal hell, and the Arabic is clear on that. And then the fourth point is that the Jews had this concept and Allah rebukes them. So the idea of divine threat and divine promise is very important to Zaydis because it makes Zaydis very Quran centric. We may have hadith that are in the Ummah that contradict Quran, but we reject them, regardless of chains, regardless of this and that. We reject them because the Quran is the ultimate authority. So yeah, divine threat, divine promise, very important for Zaidi to be Quran centric, and specifically important in refuting the idea that we're going to be in hell temporarily. Now, the point I want to make is this eternal hell is for the one who enters hell. Okay, but before that, Allah is most merciful. Allah may forgive. A person has a chance to ask for forgiveness. Allah will weigh up all his good deeds, his bad deeds, and Allah will ultimately decide. But once you're in hell, the Quran is clear that it's eternal, and we don't accept any hadith that then go against the Quran and say you can come out of hell.